It was good, Josh. I'm in the Bigga P, and I just want to share my thoughts on not only the PBC card from yesterday, but also the Triple G card from last week. I'll start with that one first. The first fight that was up to bat was the Gonzalez versus Sosa fight. Now, pretty much it was just. Now, it's very rare that you actually see the lower weights, the really low weights on HBO. Usually, typically, HBO's never been the most supportive. I mean, to anything that's pretty much under 122. With some exceptions here and there. So I was more very curious about to see how it would actually be received and how it received by not only the public but the paying public that was there. And turned out they were receptive as hell towards it. I mean, there's really nothing much to say about the fight other than Gonzalez pretty much showed his full offensive arsenal that night, and the crowd loved it. I loved it. I know I was watching with my father; he loved it. Yeah, pretty much it was just a showcase. And I honestly I thought Sosa would actually last a little bit longer than was it 2 rounds, and but I guess this was just too much. I mean that power is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, as short as it was, I thought it was a wonderful fight, and hopefully it goes a long way to actually really, for HBO to actually really pay attention because there's some great fighters in the lower weights and some great fights that could be aired that needs to be aired other than having to either watch it on a stream or go watch it on one of the Spanish speaking channels, which is pretty much or watch it on Wealth TV. Um, but yeah, like I said, pretty much. I mean, it was a display, it was a coming out party, and I'm sure we're gonna see him. We're gonna see Gonzalez pretty much on an HBO card probably in the near future. But I wouldn't be surprised by sometime this summer or late summer. Um, and then of course takes us to the main event. It was Triple G versus Willie Monroe Jr. Um, Not as excited about this fight. I mean, it wasn't like the Murray fight where I thought, okay, Murray is he's pretty legit. He when he was in with Sergio, he almost came to the point of actually was beating Stern. So I mean, that fight, that fight I was a little bit happy because I was thinking, okay, Triple G's gonna be in with a legit middle. And then of course, I mean, I shared my thoughts on that already. But now Willie was something different. Willie was something different because Willie's style of fighting could expose what I always perceived as one of Triple G's few weaknesses, which is handling speed. Um, Foot speed, not as much because Triple G knows how to cut off the ring, but more or less hand speed, and that was the part where I always thought that I mean he displayed a couple fights where I thought Triple G had shown a little bit of struggle with. So that was the only upside of the fight. And of course, the other elephant in the room was, could Willie actually take his shots? Um, the answer to that was seemingly no, because in the second round he almost put him out, and I was like, wow. I wasn't shocked though. Like, it was to be expected. What wasn't expected was Willie adjusting and keeping Triple G keeping him on the inside. Like pretty much, Willie had success when he was able to keep Triple G in the ring. Surprisingly, I mean the infighting, and I couldn't explain why that was, or whether Triple G was just like, okay, he's not hurting him, or Triple G has shown another weakness. But it didn't seem like Triple G knew how to infight, which is odd for someone that I actually do consider he is a highly skilled fighter. I mean, outside of his power, he's not just a mindless brawler. The dude has a little skill. And Willie was scoring like he scored. He had a nice little left uppercut there. I mean, he was scoring heavily in the he was going to the body, and I'm over here thinking like, this is unexpected. And my father was saying, my father was loving it because he was like, okay, he's showing the brain, you know. He was cheering. I was like, Willie, keep going to the body, get off the ropes. And this is the part where Willie. I mean, when Willie got to the ropes, this is where he'd get messed up, like, because you can't allow Triple G to you can't set up his punches like that, and this is what got him in trouble. Um, this is what got him in trouble, eventually during the fight, and then near the end of the fight. Um, and I was like, and I was like, this is not good. Like Triple G was actually legit losing rounds. I mean, granted, I think I had him down maybe only by a couple of rounds at the time of the stoppage. But and then of course the stoppage was Willie. Willie tried to pull the whole, wait, I got up at 9.99999 seconds, you know, and Reese was like, okay, no, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna tell you like this: you got up at 10. Do you want to continue the fight? And then after that, it pretty much knows either if you continue to fight, then obviously Triple G would go ahead and pretty much bash him around a little bit some more. But Willie decided to say he had enough. I couldn't fault him because like I said, he was getting touched up pretty good. But I do have to give my kudos to him for actually taking the fight to Triple G because he looked. Pretty much like I said, he won more rounds off Triple G than I'd seen anyone in. I can't even tell you the last person who actually. I know Kurt Stevens had maybe a round or two where I thought where his head speed was, making a little bit of a difference until Triple G started cutting off the ring on him. And this was the same thing in this fight. Triple G was cutting off the ring on Willie in this fight. But that's like pretty much the first time since maybe the Uma fight. And that was God knows how long ago that I actually seen Triple G actually clearly lose rounds. And he actually got touched up too because I saw the trademarks and everything. He got hit pretty good. Just Willie unfortunately didn't have enough power or wasn't sitting his punches up for Triple G to actually respect him. So Triple G, of course, like I said, the thing with Triple G is, unfortunately, the top middles in that division are not in a rush to fight him, and so. And he's one of the few fighters. He's one of the few fighters that I have to say can legit make this excuse to me, or at least say it because he's fighting like 3-4 times a year. So clearly he wants to stay busy. He's not like he's fighting bums of the month. He's trying to fight the best available, and he wants to unify that. He wants to unify the middleweight title. It's kind of hard to do that when Cotto is not interested in really fighting as a legit middle, or you have let's see, there's the IBF. The IBF title is vacant. I guess Dom and Lemieux are going for it. And who's the WBC? Cotto's WBC. And then you have Andy Lee, who's who's actually probably who's the one who actually does want to get in the ring with Triple G for unification, and I actually would welcome that too. But like I said, Triple G he's clearly a hit. Pretty much in the post Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather era. Clearly now stations boxers are gonna be looking for new stars, and I'm pretty sure now HBO is gonna be like, okay, Triple G, he has a fan base. They go crazy for him. They go crazy for his interviews. He makes opponents good boys. That's So pretty much he has the full machine behind him. So hopefully at some point, well, either that or I'd have to wait. This is why I'm hoping that Cotto actually loses to Gale, because I'm pretty sure Gale would want to actually try to unify or have another shot at Triple G again to actually to clear things in middleweight at the middleweight division. So, but like I said, it was typical. Triple G didn't look as sharp. I don't know, like I said, if he just either took him lightly or just he didn't hurt him. But like I said, he's fought better fights, but he got the job done. His power did what it had to do. So, props to him, and hopefully that he can actually try to bring some clarity to the middleweight picture. That is, if Cotto can actually face him. So now it takes us to yesterday's PBC card. This one I was actually in the house for. Against Arena, BU's against Arena. I was, because I live maybe about 35 minutes away from there. And I was surprised too, because I heard about that fight being thrown around. But when I heard, and I thought it'd be in England, but when I saw that it was in Boston, of all places, I was like, yeah, I was like, they didn't put it like Michigan or England. They put it in Boston, of all places. So I was like, how could I not get a ticket? I tried to get a floor seat, but unfortunately, when I tried to order as early as I can, they didn't have them available on the website. So I had to. So I was just like, you know what? Just in case, I bought the best available ticket. I'm pretty much in one of the first sections of in the Ray section, um, right of the red corner. I mean, of the white corner. Excuse me. And then I was pissed later when about man, I went on there later just to check to see if my ticket was in there, and I saw that all the flushes were now available for purchase. I was pissed, and Ticketmaster wouldn't let me exchange and pay the balance to get a floor seat. You're just like, okay, no, um, you gotta buy a whole new ticket and then sell your ticket off, which is stupid. I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't. I don't flip tickets. That's not what I do. I'm not a scalper. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna continue to do what keep this ticket. And my seat wasn't bad. I was close. I mean, I had pretty much I could see everything from where I was. It was it was very close. I wasn't nosebleeding or anything. So but yeah, I mean, I got to see it like the undercard, like the non-televised fights were very entertaining. The fights before and after the main fights, the main TV fights, they were extremely entertaining bouts to watch. What I got to I got to meet a couple of fighters. I got to meet Tony DeMarco. Um, I saw Anthony Dirrell in one of the lots I was parked in. Saw Sugar Ray, BJ Flores, Danny Jacobs. It was real cool. I got to got to see all that, and like I said, the only thing that I felt was kind of odd was and Paulie Malignaggi was there too. Yeah, he was there, showing people his eye and whatnot. Um, the only thing I felt odd too was like they started the broadcast with the title fight. Now there were two fights on there. It was, I thought that was gonna be the main event, and then Edwin Rodriguez versus Craig Baker, would be the one that would lead off the card. So I was surprised too when they actually started off the card with that fight. So I'm like, and I don't agree with that. I mean, because I was like, they had the swing belt ready. The swing belt was damn good. And then they had, I was like, that. I mean, that doesn't do anything. You pretty much make Edwin. Edwin's a good guy. Make no question about it. But he wasn't the main event of that. He wasn't the main event of the card. I mean, you got to put him first. And his fight. I mean, and I'll talk about his fight first. Pretty much, Edwin showed. I mean, because now he's fighting at 175. Edwin showed. I mean, Edwin was really putting together those punches. Like those punches he was landing, landing live, were absolutely ridiculous to watch. The controversy though is where the stoppage occurred. Now Baker had actually been tagging him too. Like there were. I mean, there were parts where he was actually countering Edwin pretty well, and not really seeing the effects of it. But the problem with Baker was he got caught with a good shot, went on the ropes right in the corner, and he let Edwin tee off on him. Like, usually, boxers, you can't let a fighter tee off on you. You either gotta throw your hands or make an effort to get out of the corner or hold. You gotta do something. And Baker was doing neither. And watching it live, it was sick because Edwin was really hitting him with some stuff, And I was like, I was looking, I was like, he's not sagging. His shoulders are not sagging. He's not, nothing sagging. But it's like you have to throw back. You gotta do something. So the referee stepped in. He ruled on, he erred on the side of caution. And Baker was sitting there dumbfounded, like, no one told you to absorb 20 unanswered punches and not do anything. You're not Oliver McCall. So, like I said, that was the type of fight that Edwin needed. And hopefully, maybe at some point he actually, he'll become a player at 175. Right now, of course, pretty much 175 now is just really two fighters right now, Stevenson and Kovalev, and trying to get them into the ring, to unify all four belts. But Edwin has more than enough chance to actually be a big player in that division, and I look forward to more of his fights. There at light heavyweight. Which brings us to our main event, James DeGale versus Andre Dirrell. I was rooting for Andre, not because of any nationalistic reasons or anything like UK, USA. That I would really concern myself with all that. But Andre Dirrell, to me, is always one of those fighters that I think has all the talent in the world, physical talent in the world. You know, fast, both hands of his feet, and can punch. But you know, just a lot of other things in his career that's never been you know, it has never come together mentally, but it's mostly mental with him. And then pretty much his career had stalled after that fight with Abraham, a fight where he was winning, and although he did win by disqualification, um, that put you know pretty much that put his career out. I mean, that pretty much halted his career in his actual prime. Um, I mean, he's still technically in his prime. He's what? He's 30 something years old. He's like, I mean, he's still technically in his physical prime. He's not past it. Um, but yeah, it just started like the years of the infrequent performances, like fighting maybe once every like 18 months and stuff like that. And it's like you hate to see other super middleweights that are from the Super Six, like they're actually going on and actually accomplishing other stuff. Well, except maybe I mean hell, even Jermaine Taylor is able to come back and win a middleweight title, and this is after a brain bleed. So you're like thinking to myself, like this guy really needs to win a title, you know. This guy should have been champion, and he should have been champion that night when he faced Froch in Nottingham. Um, there were only two results for that fight, and yes, and this is also, and I do admit Dirrell had an issue with this. I mean, either Dirrell would win a close decision, or it was a draw. And the reason I said because there were fights where Dirrell literally, I think, 2 or 3 times rocked Froch to the core of like he was badly hurt, and Froch couldn't do a damn thing. So you know, and I always thought he was robbed of that fight. I thought he was robbed, and he didn't deserve that loss. This fight, however, there was no controversy, even though he says, you know, DeGale was running. Um, it was one of those things, like I said, one of those mental things I talked about with Andre Dirrell. Like I said, physical talent, you know, out his ass. Guy's a great boxer. Even to me, like he's a great talent. But there's just certain things that he does that just absolutely irritates me. Like not knowing when to let his hands go, or not knowing when to actually really go for the kill against somebody. And this was very prevalent like after the second round. Although the second round was nearly a disaster because the shot that DeGale landed on him, you know, hearing that live was absolutely like I thought he was done because he just flattened him with that shot. I mean, the whole arena was like, oh, you know, his fam, you can see Dirrell's fam, they were wilding out in the front row and everything, and I honestly thought Andre was not going to survive that round, but he did, and DeGale was tiring. And one thing he was doing, there was just too much posturing by Andre. Like there was like him doing this with his cheeks or not pumping his jab enough because it was there because DeGale's hands were down, and he was scoring because he was the aggressor in the fight. And he had another movement too. I think it was in the 5th or 6th round too. We were connected, and nose like I was trying to figure out. I had my boy was next to me, and I was like, we were trying to figure out where that blood came from, either from his mouth or his nose. Because all that thing, he took a shot, and you see all this blood on his shoulder. And but pretty much after that, DeGale didn't have. DeGale let Andre come in because DeGale was just was trying to load up for that one punch. He was trying to load up for his left hand, and Andre was actually he was doing like he was doing nothing. He was pumping the jab. I mean, he would corner him and throw the flurries, try to win the rounds, and he was doing it. He was scoring. But what gave the fight to DeGale? I mean, DeGale still had a good lead. Like now, had Dirrell won these championship rounds, he would have walked away from the belt. He did not win those rounds. He didn't. It was just too much posturing, and he let his hands go. You could hear people in the crowd. It's like, Dre, he's tired. He's tired. Pump your jab. Go to the body. You can hear this. Like, the whole crowd can see DeGale was labored. And he just wouldn't let his hands go. And this is what, and then, and this he did, and this was in 11-12. He just didn't do anything to say, okay, give him the fight. To give him the rounds and to give him the fight. And if he'd done that, he would have won he would have won the fight. So, like I said, when the scores were announced as 114-112, I mean, I agree with it. Those were the scores. What I didn't agree with though was that 117-109. That got booed. I mean, that was complete bullshit. I mean, that pretty much Dirrell probably, and that's with the knockdowns too. You serious? 117-111. Nah, it's not. That's absolutely. But that means Dirrell pretty much wasn't in the fight, and he was in the fight. And he definitely was in that fight. He just didn't do enough. This was it. Pretty much was the Froch thing again. The Froch thing, and Froch didn't do anything, but Dirrell. I mean, and Dirrell did something, but he didn't do enough. And then so because of the hometown, they gave Froch the decision. I can't argue because DeGale he came, he did what he had to do, but he like pretty much he won those last 2 rounds, and those were the rounds that got him the fight. Um, like I said, I mean, I'll welcome a rematch because I more than anything I do want to see Andre Dirrell pick up a title. I do want him to actually become a champion, look to finally to really validate the potential that he had as a fighter. Um, but like I said, my props to DeGale. I honestly thought he would be outclassed. I mean, I've watched. I mean, especially when I watch. This is a guy that has his zero took by George Gross. So you're thinking like, yourself, how can they lose to Andre Dirrell? My hat's off to him. I have to, like I said, he did what he had to do, and he walked away with the title. His supporters were all wilding out in there. He had the Chunket, Chunky Team Chunky Chunkettes. Some of those Chunkettes were fine too. um, I like I said, I couldn't, I couldn't disagree with the score. I mean, he's the new super middleweight champion of the world, IBF super middleweight champion of the world, and most likely now. Next fight is either unless he has a mandatory, I'm pretty sure he's gonna go. I would love to see him run that back, not on a PBC card or anything like that, but run that back in England or something like that. So yeah, I mean, those were my thoughts on those 2 cards. Like I said, overall, like I said, nothing beats watching boxing live. And of course, this is my first time I've seen PBC. To see how the set looked and how and all that looked, and the ring walk work, and it was a fun time. And I know there were a couple of fights. There were a couple of fights even after the main cards that were pretty, they were pretty good too. So anyone who's watching this, and anytime you see a PBC card in your town, go to it. I mean, it's worth it. I mean, it's worth a watch. So yeah. Until next time, peace.